Have you ever heard of a land so perfect that the people forgot what sadness felt like? That was Anioma, a land kissed by the sun, blessed by the gods, and nurtured by the love of its people. From the rising of the sun to its setting, joy covered the land like the morning dew upon the green grasses. Children laughed freely in the courtyards, women sang happily as they pounded yam, and men whistled as they returned from the farm with baskets filled with ripe produce. Anioma was not just a land, it was a song of peace. The people of Anioma were many, and they lived together as if they were one family. They never lacked food because the soil was rich and fertile. Their yam barns were always full, their cassava never failed, and their palm trees dripped with oil so rich it glistened under the light of the moon. Even the rivers gave them fish in abundance, and their goats and cows multiplied without struggle. Marriage was a thing of beauty in Anioma. Whenever a young man was ready to take a wife, the elders blessed the union, and the gods smiled on them. Children came easily, both boys and girls, and mothers gave birth in peace. No cries of sorrow filled the land, only the cries of newborns, which were answered by the songs of celebration. And when old age finally touched them with its gentle hands, the people of Anioma did not fear death. They only returned to their chi when they felt their work on earth was done. It was not sickness or pain that carried them away, but fulfillment and peace. At the center of this perfect land stood the palace where the king ruled with wisdom. He was a very old man, yet his mind was sharp and his heart full of love. His people honored him not because they feared him, but because they loved him. He was their father, and they were his children. Under his reign, Anioma flourished like the morning sun spreading across the sky. But time does not stand still, not even for kings. One evening, when the air was cool and the stars had begun to peep from the heavens, the king lay upon his mat and closed his eyes for the last time. His people wept, not because his death was sudden, but because they would miss him. He had lived long, done all his chi sent him to do, and left them in peace. The burial of the king was like no other. The drums of Anioma beat slowly, the maidens wailed softly, and the elders poured libations to guide his spirit safely to the ancestors. The people mourned for many days, but when the burial rites were done, their hearts turned to the future. It was time to crown a new king. Everyone in Anioma knew the custom. The first son of the king was always the chosen heir, unless the gods declared otherwise. And in this case, the gods had already chosen Obiora, the king's first son. From childhood, Obiora had been groomed for leadership. He was calm, gentle, and wise like his father. He listened more than he spoke and always put the people first. The elders trusted him, and the land was ready for his reign. Preparations began immediately. The village square was decorated, drummers prepared their instruments, and palm wine flowed freely. A date was fixed, and everyone looked forward to the coronation of Obiora, their new king. The gods had blessed Anioma with a smooth transition. But 2 days before the set day, something happened that no one expected. Obieze, the youngest of the king's 3 sons, summoned his brothers. He was the last born, younger than both Obiora and Obinna, but his eyes burned with a strange fire that day. "I know I am the last son," Obieze began, his voice sharp with determination, "but I believe I am the one who should be king, not Obiora." Obiora looked at him quietly, his mouth half open but no words coming. He could not understand what gave his brother such thoughts. To him, Obieze's words were like the sudden clap of thunder on a clear day. It was Obinna, the second son, who stood up in anger. "What are you saying, Obieze? Did you not grow up with us? Do you not know that Obiora is the chosen prince? There is no debate. He has been groomed for this kingship all his life, and we, his brothers, are to support him. That is our duty." But Obieze shook his head. "No, you are wrong. I am braver than both of you. I am stronger, and I work harder than you. Do you remember the day in the bush when the leopard came to attack us? Who fought it single-handedly? Who killed it? It was me. I have always proved that I have the heart of a king. Not Obiora, not you." Obinna clenched his fists. "Kingship is not by strength, Obieze. It is the gods that choose kings, and Obiora is the chosen one. Stop this foolishness before the gods punish you." But Obieze refused to listen. His voice rose like the cry of a stubborn child. "You will see. The crown belongs to me, not to him." The brothers left him there, troubled in their hearts. They went straight to their mother, the queen mother, and told her everything. She was deeply worried. "What has gotten into him?" she asked, her hands trembling. "Why will he think like this? And why now when his brother's coronation is only 2 days away? This is not good at all." The queen mother tried to speak to Obieze herself, but he turned away from her. She then called the elders of Anioma, begging them to speak to her son. The elders sent for him, but Obieze refused to go. They even went to his chambers, but he would not listen. He shut his ears to every counsel. The people of Anioma heard whispers of what was happening, but they refused to be troubled. They believed the gods would settle the matter. They continued with their preparations, trusting that nothing would disturb the peace of their beloved land. The coronation day came. The sun rose bright, the square was filled with people, the drummers played, and the air smelled of palm wine and roasted meat. The chief priest stood tall, the priestess wore her white cloth, the elders gathered, and the queen mother sat with her head high, though her heart was heavy. It was time, the moment everyone had been waiting for. Obiora stepped forward, ready to receive the crown. The people cheered, but suddenly Obieze rose. His voice cut through the noise like a sharp knife. "If you do not crown me king today," he shouted, his eyes fierce, "you will regret it." The square fell silent. The people looked at one another in shock. Was he mad? Did he want the gods to strike him dead? The elders tried to calm him, but he shouted at them. Even his mother stood to speak, but he silenced her with a wave of his hand. Then it happened. Before their very eyes, where Obieze stood, a great lion appeared. Its mane shone like fire, and its eyes glowed with power. Obiana, the second brother, vanished in that moment, and the lion stood there, daring anyone to come forward. The people screamed and fled in fear, but the lion did not harm them. It only turned back into Obieze, who lifted the crown with his own hands and placed it upon his head. And so, confusion fell on Anioma. The land that once knew peace now trembled under a new shadow. The day that should have been filled with songs and joy became a day of fear and silence. The people of Anioma returned to their homes with trembling hearts. They whispered among themselves, but no one spoke openly. They had never seen such a thing before. A man turning into a lion? It was unheard of. The gods were silent, and the people were afraid. Obieze, the youngest son of the late king, had crowned himself. He stood tall in the palace, declaring himself king. He walked into the throne room without the blessing of the elders, without the anointing of the priest, and without the prayers of the people. He sat on the throne as though he had earned it by right. His eyes were dark, and his voice carried power. The guards and servants were too afraid to resist him. They bowed their heads, pretending to accept him. The queen mother wept in secret, her heart broken. This was not the way of Anioma. This was not the will of the gods. The next morning, Obieze sent out his guards to announce his command. His words rang through every corner of Anioma. As long as I am king, no one shall be harmed. Live your lives in peace. But if anyone dares to challenge my throne, I will eat them one by one. Do not test me. Obey my rule, and you will live. The people listened, and though their hearts were troubled, they obeyed. They had no choice. Fear ruled over them, and silence covered their lips. At first, life in Anioma seemed unchanged. The farmers still went to the fields, women still fetched water from the streams, and children still played in the courtyards. But the laughter of Anioma was no longer full. The air that once smelled of joy now carried the weight of fear. The people walked with careful steps, always watching the palace, always remembering the lion that had roared before them. Weeks passed, and slowly, strange things began to happen. The goats that once multiplied easily began to die without reason. The cows grew weak, and their milk dried up. The crops in the fields, once heavy with fruits, began to wither. The yam barns were not as full, and the rivers gave less fish. The land, which had always been rich and kind, began to turn away from the people. The elders gathered in secret to discuss what was happening. They spoke in low voices, their eyes heavy with sorrow. "This is not Anioma as we know it," one elder said. "The gods are angry," another whispered. "It is Obieze," the oldest among them declared. "He has broken the law of the land. He has taken the throne with his own hands. Such things bring curses." But though they knew the truth, they were powerless. None dared to confront Obieze. They remembered the lion, and their bones shook with fear. The queen mother also called her 2 elder sons, Obiora and Obinna, into her chambers. Her eyes were swollen from tears. "My sons," she said softly, "I do not understand what has happened to your brother. He was once kind and loving. He played with you, he ate with you, he laughed with you, but now his heart is dark. I fear he has touched powers that are not of the gods. Anioma is suffering because of him." Obiora, the first son, bowed his head. His voice was calm but heavy. "Mother, I cannot fight him. If the gods have allowed this, who am I to resist? I will wait and watch. But I know in my heart this is not their will. This is Obieze's doing." Obinna clenched his fists in anger. "If I had the strength, I would drag him off that throne myself. But he is no longer a man. Did you not see how he turned into a lion before our eyes? What man can fight such a thing?" Their mother held their hands. "My children, do not fight him. The gods will fight their own battle. But my heart fears for Anioma. This land is breaking." As the months turned to years, Obieze grew worse. His reign was not just one of fear, but also of wickedness. He began to take whatever he wanted from the people. If he saw a farm that was rich, he would seize it for himself. If he saw a maiden that was beautiful, he would command that she be brought to the palace. The men and women of Anioma had no voice, no strength to resist. Festivals, which once brought the people together in joy, became gatherings of silence. No one danced with freedom anymore. Even the drums, which once beat loudly across the land, sounded weak and sorrowful. The children of Anioma grew up without laughter. They were born into a land of fear. Their mothers no longer sang happily while pounding yam, and their fathers no longer whistled when returning from the farms. The joy of Anioma had died, buried under the shadow of Obieze's rule. And yet, deep within the people's hearts, a question grew. What had changed their prince? What had turned Obieze, who once smiled with them, into this dark and fearful king? It was whispered in corners, in hushed tones that carried only on the wind. Obieze had gone to a faraway kingdom long before his father's death, a kingdom known for dark powers, where men traded their souls for strength. It was there, they said, that he had gained the ability to turn into a lion. It was there he took the crown of Anioma, not by the will of the gods, but by the will of evil. But the people could only whisper. None dared to say it aloud, not even before the elders. Obiora, the rightful heir, remained silent. He lived in Anioma, but stayed away from the palace. He did not hate his brother, but his heart grew heavy every day as he watched his land crumble. He prayed to the gods, asking why they were silent, asking why they had allowed his brother to defile the throne. Obinna, the second brother, was restless. He wanted to act, but his hands were tied by fear and the warning of his mother. Still, in his heart, he could not sit forever. Something had to be done. The people of Anioma waited. The land itself seemed to wait. But for what? They did not know. For now, Obieze reigned. For now, the lion sat on the throne of Anioma. The years passed slowly in Anioma, and with each passing day, the land became weaker. The crops that once bent the barns with their weight now grew thin and dry. The goats and cows that once multiplied without struggle now lay dead in the fields. The rivers that once sang with fish now looked empty. Anioma, the land of beauty, was now a shadow of itself. The people no longer thanked the gods every morning. Instead, they asked questions in silence. Why have the gods forsaken us? Why have they allowed Obieze, our brother, our son, our king, to bring ruin upon us? But no answer came. It was during this time of sorrow that the truth of Obieze's secret began to spread more clearly. Some elders, old enough to remember stories from their youth, whispered about a distant land called Okija, a dark kingdom feared by many. It was said that men went there when they hungered for power beyond what the gods had given them, but no man ever returned the same. One evening, when the moon was full and the air heavy, Obiora and Obinna sat with their wives and children in the quiet of their home. The air outside carried the smell of death from the farms, and the silence of the night felt louder than drums. Obiana could no longer hold back his anger. "Brother," he said to Obiora, "I can no longer stay here. Anioma is not the land we knew. Our children are growing up in fear. Our wives cry in silence. This is not life. Obieze has sold his soul to darkness. He is no longer our brother. He is something else." Obiora, who had been silent for long, lifted his eyes slowly. His face was calm, but his voice was firm. "I have known for a while that Obieze did not take the throne by his own strength alone. Do you not remember the day he turned into a lion? That was no gift from the gods. That was the mark of evil. I heard from an old priest that he once traveled far to a dark land in his youth. There he bowed before evil spirits, and they gave him power in exchange for his heart. That is the man who sits on the throne of Anioma today." Their wives shivered, pulling their children closer. "What then shall we do?" Obinna asked. "Do we continue to watch as Anioma dies?" Obiora sighed deeply. "I cannot fight my brother. He is blood, no matter what he has become. If the gods will not remove him, I will not lift my hands against him. But I will not remain here and watch my children perish. If Anioma has fallen, then we must leave. Perhaps the gods will bless us with a new land." His words were like fire, burning away the silence. That night he gathered his family, and Obinna did the same. Their mother, the Queen Mother, had already gone to the ancestors, so there was nothing left to tie them to the palace. When the news spread quietly, some of the people of Anioma begged to follow them. "We can no longer live under the shadow of the Lion King," they said. "Take us with you." Not everyone left. Some people were too afraid to move. Some believed Obieze's threats and thought leaving would bring punishment. So they remained in Anioma, choosing fear over freedom. But many others joined Obiora and Obinna. Men, women, and children walked with them into the unknown, trusting that the gods who once blessed Anioma would bless them again. The journey was not easy. They walked through forests, crossed streams, and slept under the stars. But not once did wild animals harm them, nor did hunger kill them. It was as if unseen hands guided their steps, carrying them gently like children. After many days, they came to a land not too big, but rich and green. The soil was soft, the rivers clear, and the air filled with the songs of birds. The people of the surrounding lands saw them and welcomed them kindly. Out of compassion, those neighbors gave them portions of land to live on, saying, "We see that the gods walk with you. Take these lands and make them your own." Obiara was crowned king there, not by force, but by the will of the people and the blessing of the gods. His coronation was filled with songs, drums, and laughter. The people danced again, women sang as they worked, and the children laughed freely once more. It was as if the sorrow of Anioma had been washed away by the rivers of their new home. They named the land Aniudo, the land of peace. And truly, it was so. Their farms flourished again, their goats and cows multiplied, and their children grew healthy and strong. Marriage was celebrated with joy, and old age came gently as before. The gods smiled on Aniudo because its king was chosen in truth, not by greed or by evil. As for Anioma, those who remained under Obieze continued to suffer. The land grew weaker with each passing year. People whispered that the gods had turned their faces away from Anioma. Obieze ruled like a shadow of fear, but even he knew that he was king of a dying land. He had power, but no joy. He had strength, but no peace. He had the throne, but not the love of his people. Obiora, Obinna, and their people never returned. They built their lives in Aniudo, and their children grew into men and women who knew peace. They never forgot Anioma, the land of their fathers, but they no longer mourned for it. They believed that Anioma fell not because the gods abandoned it, but because one man chose greed over destiny. And so Aniudo lived as Anioma once lived, full of joy, full of peace, full of blessing. The story of Anioma became a warning, told from father to child. Greed can destroy even the most blessed land, but where truth and peace reign, the gods will always dwell. Thus ended the tale of Anioma, the beautiful land that was nearly perfect, and Aniudo, the land of peace that rose from its ashes.